Hello, and welcome back to Rainbow Magician Tarot. Hope you're having a wonderful day, week, season, year. Well, none of us had a wonderful year, let's be real. But I hope that you are making the most out of the ending part of this year. So, the theme for this week's video is reflecting on 2020. What were the lessons that we learned or that we were meant to learn here? And what is the thing that we can alchemize from this year that was very, very difficult for a lot of us, right? You know, we're not going to sugarcoat it and pretend that this year was great because for a lot of us, it was probably the worst year that we've had in our lives, or it's one of the worst years that we've had just because of everything going on. So the theme of this video, again, is going to be kind of tying in this reflection of the year with this concept that I'm very obsessed with, which is alchemy. If you've watched my channel before, you'll know that I'm very into this. If you want more information about what I mean by alchemy, you can watch my shadow alchemy video that I did where I go into depth explaining that. But this is gonna be along the same lines, so I'm gonna do a very similar spread that I did in that video. However, whereas that video was like an interactive, like shadow work kind of practice, this is not necessarily going to be like that, although if you do want to make this interactive, by all means you can. And again, if you want to watch that video to understand what kinds of things you can do to kind of actually like interact with this and like make it your own kind of process, you can do that. But I kind of just wanted this to be more of a reflective reading, looking at, you know, what were the main challenges this year and how did we move through them? How did we overcome them? And now what is the gold or the gift that we are taking from those challenges? Okay, so this is how I kind of conceptualize of this concept of alchemy is you're taking something that is unwanted or is, you know, not in the state that you want it in, not in its perfect state. Okay, so you're taking something like if we're applying this to like the ancient practice of alchemy, something like lead, where it doesn't have much value, right? And you are transmuting it into something that is of high value and that is very worthy and very wanted. So something like gold, right? And so the process of going from lead to gold is one where instead of, you know, it's not about erasing the lead and getting rid of it and then finding gold somewhere else. You have to find the gold within the lead. So you have to break the lead down to it. Okay, I apologize. My phone is always out of storage when I'm trying to film these, so it's always a challenge. But what I was saying is you have to break the lead down to its bare components and find the qualities of what you are wanting, so the qualities of the gold within those bare components of the lead. And so you're essentially taking an experience that was painful or traumatic or unwanted, and instead of rejecting that experience and trying to make it so that it didn't happen, you are finding ways to approve of it. You are bringing it closer to you and finding the gift that you can exalt from it, the lesson that you can exalt from it, the thing about it that makes it so that it is something that is wanted in the picture of your life versus something that's not wanted, so that you don't have to feel painful about it anymore, right? So this is kind of like, sorry, I could like go on and on talking about this concept, but I'll try to not go too in depth, but I will just say, like, if you just think of like art, like think of your life as like you're painting a picture, right? And you can't ever really undo something that you did, right? If you make a stroke with a paintbrush and you're like, oh shit, I shouldn't have made that stroke, right? And sometimes we make really big things happen that feel like really bad mistakes, or like that shouldn't have happened. My whole painting is ruined now, right? But instead of trying to erase it or undo it, you have to try to figure out, okay, now that this is here, what am I going to do with this big, huge stroke that's in the middle of my painting? Maybe I'm going to make it into something else. It's like trying to find the way to make whatever it is that you think has ruined your painting and make it into something beautiful, make it into something that adds to your experience, adds to your life. And so that's kind of this whole concept that I am very, very obsessed with, and that's how I kind of try to focus all of my tarot readings around this idea. So if you're new here, this is kind of what the types of readings that we do on this channel are very in-depth. I'm not here to predict your future. I'm here to kind of give you an in-depth reading of what is going on within your psyche and within your body, your emotions. How do these things relate to unhealed wounds, and how can you feel empowered so as to, have actions that you can take to find meaning and find beauty in these experiences. So I'm gonna stop my spiel there because I don't want to make this intro much longer than it already is. But we will get into the reading. So again, this is going to be focused on the theme of 2020. What is the lessons that we can learn from this year? And I will be next week posting a video for kind of more of the traditional, like, what can you expect from 2021 kind of video. But I really wanted to do like a reflection on 2020 before we did anything with 2021. So tune in next week for that. And if you are interested in a private reading with me, the information for that will be below. Again, I do readings that are very in-depth and focused on these same themes. So if that's of interest to you, you can check the link down below. So thank you for joining me. And now we will get into the pile selection. Okay, so we have 3 decks to choose from today. So go ahead and, if you want to meditate for a minute, or do whatever you need to do, connect with your heart, place your hands on your heart and just tune in for a second, ask your guides, ask your higher self to show you which card is right for you, okay? And then just kind of focus, or kind of unfocus your gaze, I guess, is what I like to do. Just kind of, like you're kind of unfocusing a camera with your eyes, and just kind of let your eyes be drawn to whichever pile feels like it's calling you the most, and you'll feel it kind of tug either at your heart or at your gut. That's the one that you want to listen to. Okay, so choose whichever one calls out to you most, and click the timestamps below to get to your reading. Okay, group 1. Welcome. So we will get into your reading. So if you haven't seen the Shadow Alchemy video that I did, this spread is going to be very similar. So I have 4 cards laid out here for the main 4 parts of this spread. Each card represents each stage of alchemy, okay? So 4 stages of alchemy, just a quick explanation, which we will explain more as we go through this reading. The first is the blackening stage. So this is kind of becoming aware of the shadow aspect. So this is kind of whatever issue or challenge is showing up the greatest in your life. Okay, so as it relates to 2020, what is the issue or the challenge, the shadow that you were dealing with the most in 2020? The second stage is the whitening stage. So this is the stage about understanding the purity and the innocence behind the shadow. So what is the childhood wound that was most needed to be healed in 2020? And so that's what we're going to be looking at for the second card. And then for step 3 is the yellowing stage. So this is the stage where you are finding the thing that you want to extract from that unwanted experience. So you're finding the gold to extract from that shadow. You're finding the gift inherent in that experience. So what was this meant to teach you? What was this meant to bring you? What was the gold that you got from this? Okay, and then the last stage is the reddening stage. So this is the stage where the original thing now becomes this completely new thing. So this is the stage all about the kind of embodiment of this integrated new form. Okay, so this is going to be the stage of like, okay, where are you at now going into 2021? What is your most embodied, exalted form of these lessons that you've learned in 2020, and how can you really just fully like embrace that as we move into 2021? Okay, so we'll do each of the steps, and I'll probably draw some clarifying cards along the way. So we will go ahead and get into it. So your first card for the blackening stage. So this is your biggest challenge or the biggest shadow that you were dealing with in 2020. So the card that you guys have is the King of Swords, which is depicted as the Viking in this deck. So this deck is really cool. It has all different kinds of mythological characters on each of the cards. So just a little warning in advance, I probably will not know all of these characters, but I'll still try to do my best to just interpret the cards intuitively. But if there's like a mythological figure that you know very much about that I don't know, then I apologize for that, and you can take whatever messages you want from your own intuition about that. But here we have a Viking with the King of Swords. So let's see. Your biggest challenge in 2020. Okay. So Viking, this kind of energy is, you know, someone who's very headstrong, someone who is very aggressive, I want to say, or not afraid of, like, you know, kind of just like a go, 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 like wanting to conquer, right? Wanting to defeat something. So there is perhaps this energy of like needing to conquer, needing to defeat, right? This kind of like battle energy of just like wanting to master something, wanting to master whatever challenges came your way, right? But it's a very like kind of lack of vulnerability kind of energy. Like it's very like tough and strong. So I have a feeling that for you guys, 2020 was really a test to this kind of toughness, this tough persona that you had built up, right? And so the challenge was like, you know, it was trying to figure out how to keep that persona, and maybe you found out that it wasn't actually serving you because, you know, if you don't have any ability to be vulnerable, then, you know, you're only as strong as your armor, you know? You're only as strong as the physical things that you use to protect yourself. But if you don't have any internal protection, if you don't have any internal strength, then none of that's going to matter, okay? Because we have here, he has this sword that's like cracking, it looks like. So you might have had this experience of your armor kind of cracking, or your defenses cracking, the things that you used to use to protect yourself and defend yourself suddenly kind of aren't working anymore, and you feel like your foundations are crumbling a little bit. You don't really know who you are. This year was really a test to your resilience quite a bit, and maybe you found that your old ways of being resilient, of being kind of tough and stoic and unvulnerable, is that a word? Invulnerable, whatever that word is, weren't like, it was a challenge to keep those things up, and maybe you found out that that wasn't serving you, okay, and that that it was actually hurting you more, okay? So let's draw just a couple of clarifiers on that. For group one, whoa. Okay, we have Temperance. Okay, so yeah, Temperance, this is all about kind of gentleness, right? Kind of about slowly dipping your foot into the water and like getting used to it, right? Whereas the Viking is very much like, let's charge on through. Temperance is like, let's take what we can handle. Let's dip our toe in the water and get used to it. And, kind of having to dilute experiences a little bit so that they're more easier to handle, right? It's not everything all at once. It's learning how to make things tolerable for yourself. Okay, so this is kind of what you had to learn how to do this year. And it was perhaps, not very easy because you have this energy of like, I just need to bear it all, I just have to bear it all. And maybe you feel like it's not even your choice, like you really just feel like the world was put on your shoulders this year and that you really were kind of forced to bear a lot of pain that maybe you didn't even feel like you signed up for. And and so this idea of like temperance, of making it easier on yourself, was like, what the hell are you talking about? Because I have all of this pain surrounding me. Like there's not much I can do. It's kind of like feeling overwhelmed. Like you're just surrounded by a lot of overwhelming emotions here. Okay. And you're just trying to figure out which way to go. Right. And this kind of softer energy of like, let's take it slow, let's get used to it. Let's kind of dilute the pain a little bit and try to move through it in a way where it's not so overwhelming to our nervous system. That energy was very difficult to master, and maybe it, was something that you just felt kind of in this kind of tug of war against. We have death in reverse. Okay. So, yeah, this year really forced a lot of us to kind of come face to face with a lot of things within our society and within our lives that we have built up that we're not going to last and we're not built to last. And so there was a lot of resistance against these things that needed to die. Okay, so whatever in your life needed to die, whether that was, some kind of vocation or career or image of yourself, even ego death, perhaps, because you maybe saw yourself as this very like tough kind of person, and then you found out that that was not actually the case. But there was a lot of resistance to accepting this death of this identity that you had built, accepting that things are not, as you were taught that they were. There was a lot revealed this year, a lot of truth revealed that was very difficult for a lot of us to handle. And so for you guys specifically, it was a real challenge to be able to kind of swallow this truth. And there was so much resistance to, whatever it was that kind of was brought to the forefront, where it's like you realized you couldn't be so strong anymore. Like your strength that you had built up, it no longer was going to be able to to save you, because you have no strength if it's all external. You have no strength if your strength is only in what you use to defend yourself, then you have no strength. It has to come from inside you, right? It has to be this internal kind of resilience, which is, again, kind of with this temperance card of knowing what can you take, what is the circumstances that I can build in my life so that this isn't so overwhelming for me, right? So you really had to learn how to like take care of yourself, and like, when everything is stripped away, like who are you and what do you have? And this is a very difficult process, for many of us, for everyone, I would say, probably. And for you specifically, there was a lot of resistance to kind of letting go of the way that things were, right? So you might have even had some actual, like, physical loss of, maybe you lost a loved one, or you lost a job, or you had something you were looking forward to, and you had to be disappointed. It had to let it go because of the situations within the world. And so, there's a lot of things that you needed to mourn, but there was a lot of kind of resistance to this feeling because, again, you had built up all of this armor, but the armor was cracking, right? It wasn't working anymore to protect you, right? Okay. So let's move on to the second stage. So this is the whitening stage. So let's look at what is kind of the inner child wound underneath all of this struggle, right? This pain that was asking to be healed this year. Okay, we have the Page of Wands in reverse, and this is the Necromancer in this deck. Okay, well, look, we had Death in reverse, and now we have Necromancer reversed. So, okay, so the childhood wound. Wanting to resurrect something that was lost in your childhood that could not be resurrected. That's what I'm getting from this card, is that there was some kind of tragic loss that you experienced, and this doesn't have to be something that is obvious or like obviously seems like a loss. Like, it doesn't have to be like a loved one lost or some kind of traumatic event. It very much well can be, but it can also be something a lot more subtle but still very impactful. So I want you to kind of understand that there's a lot of things that impact us in our childhood that when we look back on it as an adult, we're like, well, it doesn't seem like that was that big of a deal. But when we were in that state, it was like the end of the world. And so we have to kind of, change our perspective some of the time. So I just wanted to put that out there when I'm talking about loss, to kind of have an open mind about what that could have been for you. But there was some kind of tragic loss that was suffered. And there was this kind of attempt within you to kind of resurrect it or bring it back, right? But the pain was that you couldn't bring it back because we had this in reverse. So the pain was that all of your focus was going on trying to undo what was done, right? Trying to bring the dead back to life. So trying to get back to the way things were before this loss occurred. And kind of this desperation to do that, which, perhaps led to this very like kind of tough persona, this kind of invulnerable, very like stoic persona, because you were trying to just protect yourself from having to feel this loss again that you were so desperately trying to resurrect. And maybe you thought if you could just prove yourself worthy enough somehow, that you would be able to get that again, right? But this energy of needing to prove yourself, right, of I just have to, force on through and keep going, this very like masculine kind of energy, kind of like shadow masculine, I would say, energy, of just having to like, barrel on through and just grin and bear it, and just, prove yourself worthy in any way that you can, all because you're just trying to resurrect something that can't be resurrected, right? So there's this kind of pain that was not really wanting to be felt, and that kind of led to this armor, which then, as we can see, it was probably kind of came crashing down for you this year. Okay, so let's get some clarifiers on this card. Okay. We have the Ten of Wands, and we have the Hanged Man. Okay. Okay. Ten of Wands. Yeah. Carrying this burden, right? It's like you've been carrying this burden for a very, very long time. And this year is finally the year where this childhood self was like, okay, like, I need to put this down now. I can't keep carrying this. I can't keep trying to resurrect this thing that was lost, whatever it was, because it's not working, and I can't carry this with me anymore, right? So there was a need to kind of, you know, release all of that you have been carrying, right? And kind of this need to just kind of surrender to your fate with this Hanged Man. Surrender to your fate and be like, okay, yeah, like, I did lose everything. My world has turned upside down, but maybe I can look at what the view is from this new perspective and see something, you know? It's kind of like a surrender to, okay, like, I'm upside down, I'm hanging by a thread, but like, what does the world actually look like from this angle? Maybe there's something new I can see from this, because you've been resisting even acknowledging the reality of where you are, because you've spent so much time, probably, you know, many, many years, creating this persona of being very tough and very, very stoic, and, you know, not having any vulnerability, and all of that was very much threatened for you this year. Okay. I will draw. Okay. I want to draw one or two of these memory cards here, just to see if there's any specific childhood memory that can be accessed here. Okay. Do one more. Okay. So the cards that came out, we have Peace and Obsession. Okay. So, interesting energies, right? Very much kind of opposing energies. Okay, but again, look at this obsession. This obsession here with this skull in the middle, and these people being chained, right, with this skull. So again, trying to resurrect something. Like, there was something you were really trying to resurrect in your childhood. You were really trying to undo something that was done, some kind of tragic loss that made you feel like your world had been turned upside down, right? That you just, you know, did not want to accept, whatever that was. And that led to this obsession with just trying to get things back to the way they were, right? So this could have led to a lot of obsessive behaviors, of trying to perfect yourself in some way. Like, perfectionism could be a thing for some of you, or just like, yeah, trying to figure out what it was that you did that caused this loss. So there could have been some like self-blame with that, trying to figure out how to fix yourself so that you can figure out, you know, how to get this thing back, because there was so much pain associated with the loss of this state of being. It could have been just like a loss of innocence, or a loss of, well, let's just say a loss of peace, because we have this card here, right? So, you know, whatever it was that caused you to lose this kind of state of peace, this state of like lightheartedness, that you just felt like was lost, and you felt like now you're kind of just chained to this obsession with trying to bring back what was lost, right? So you've been kind of going around trying to find this thing again, right? But the state of peace, right, that you are looking for, it's very much in opposition to this energy, right? You're not going to find peace by obsessing about peace. You're not going to find, you know, happiness by obsessively trying to find happiness. It has to come from a relaxation into wherever you are, right? And kind of opening up your perception to see so far beyond everything that happened to you, and to see the vast expanse of all possibilities that can exist in life, and, you know, the possibilities that you happened to choose into in this life, and what that means for you, and, you know, kind of opening your mind to all of the like higher truths about the universe that were you maybe kind of blind to before, because you were kind of chained in this obsessive thought cycle. You couldn't really see the bigger picture. You couldn't really just like kind of let go and relax into wherever you are, right? But that was kind of what you had to learn how to do, is find peace wherever you are. You know, you learned that peace doesn't come from trying to undo what is done, right? You have to find it where you are right now. And so that's kind of the challenge that you've had to do, and what your inner child has been needing this year, is to find this sense of peace again. Okay, so that's really kind of the healing of that original wound that was needed this year for this group. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the next card in your spread. So again, this is the yellowing stage. So this is what is the gift or the lesson, the positive thing to extract from this experience, from this year that was 2020. Okay, so you have the Three of Cups reversed, and this is the Witch. It's awesome. Okay. A lot of you might have taken up some witchcraft this year, whether or not you identify with, you know, with the witch, you know, language or terminology. You have been exploring alternative spiritual practices this year. You've really had an expansion with your spirituality here, and this is what I was seeing with this card, like this expansiveness that you were really brought into. And the Witch is also all about kind of divine feminine, kind of very much opposition to this Viking, this stoic, very masculine energy, getting more in touch with this kind of feminine intuition with this Witch card, right? So this is the Three of Cups here. So the Three of Cups is usually about like collaboration on a project, or coming together with friends, celebration, right? So ritual here with this Witch energy very much looks like a ritual here. Okay. And we do have this in reverse, so I feel like there was some kind of change in your perspective of these kind of practices. Maybe you were already kind of witchy or kind of spiritual in some way, shape, or form, but there was kind of a realization that you were kind of going about it in the wrong way, that maybe you were only using these practices because you were trying to resurrect something still, like you were trying to bring back something that was lost from your childhood. You were trying to like achieve the love that you never had, achieve the life that you never had, right? There is this energy of being stuck in the past and trying to resurrect something, you know, like trying to get the parent to love you who never loved you, or trying to like undo something that happened in your childhood because you think that it messed you up and you just wish you could undo it, you know? So whatever it was that you've been trying to undo, there was this realization that all of this energy that maybe you had been putting into self-development, let's say, even if you're not very spiritual, which I'm sure if you're watching this channel, you're not, you know, I would say chances are you probably are pretty into this stuff, but for whatever reason you're not. It could be any kind of self-development thing that you were kind of taking on. Maybe it's just some like daily rituals that you were engaging in to try to improve yourself, but it was all just to try to make yourself into this, kind of perfect, strong figure. And so I feel like there was a realization this year that the potions you were brewing for the wrong reasons, right? And so you kind of had to reevaluate, like, what do I actually want to create, right? It's like you realize that the things that you've been creating subconsciously or consciously, a lot probably you weren't even aware of, but a lot of these energies that you had been creating, you were creating for the wrong reasons, right? So maybe you were trying to maybe it could have been anger at someone from your past, right? Maybe you had someone hurt you in your past and you for a while had been engaging in, practices to kind of feel a sense of justice, so anything you could to kind of feel like they were getting what they deserved, whether or not you are actively cursing anybody. I don't mean that you have to, be doing things like that, but there is an energy of wanting people to get what they deserve, right? Wanting justice, wanting revenge. And I feel like you kind of had to realize this year that everything that you were putting out into this pot, you were getting back. So if you're putting out, this energy of wanting revenge, that's just going to come straight back to you. So whatever you are dishing out is coming right back to you. So I feel like you kind of had this realization that you've been kind of going about your spiritual practice in, I don't want to say the wrong way, but in a way that's no longer serving you, So there was some kind of reevaluation that you had to do with your spirituality and kind of reconnecting to what these things actually mean to you, reconnecting to that true kind of divine feminine energy as well, instead of just trying to make yourself more tough and more vulnerable, or more not vulnerable, kind of getting back in touch with a magic that comes from vulnerability instead of from trying to protect yourself from it, if that makes sense. So let's see if we can get a couple clarifiers with that. Oops. Okay. Ah. Okay. Okay, we have the Moon. And we have the King of Pentacles. So with the Moon card, right, this very much goes with this Witch card here. You have had to reevaluate your relationship to the darker parts of life. You've had to reevaluate your relationship to your own shadow, or to these things that you once judged as bad and wrong, and you've had to look at them in a completely new perspective, right? And I feel like now you have a respect for the night, in kind of a metaphorical sense. You have a respect for the dark nights of the soul, and for the dark parts of our lives where we feel hopeless, right? But there's always, there's always a light to be found here, and that light is just a reflection of what's inside of you, because the moon is just a reflection of the sun. The moon doesn't emit any of its own light. All it really does is reflects, or translates even the light of the sun, and translates it in a way where it can be received in the darkness. And so you kind of had to learn this year that the light that you were looking for is just a reflection of the light that's inside of you, right? Even here with this Necromancer card, this light here that's coming from this hand of, trying to bring back the dead. But it's like you were trying to find this magic light that could do that for you. but the only light that you ever needed was the light that was already in you, but it was being kind of obscured, right, by the night. You couldn't really see it. But this year has taught you to kind of embrace this darkness more, embrace this more darker side of life, and now you kind of see the beauty in it, right? And you see that polarity of the yin and the yang, and you feel just a lot more whole, I feel like, because you see how both sides are needed, right? And so I really feel like you've really connected with your relationship to just the night, I want to say, kind of in whatever way that means for you metaphorically. You know, the dark parts of yourself, your shadow, or if you feel like you went through a dark night of the soul, which I feel like pretty much all of us did this year, you had to kind of learn how to see the beauty in that, right? And the moon also relates to divine feminine. So yeah, there is a lot of getting in touch with this yin energy, instead of, because I feel like before you were operating very much from a very masculine yang energy. And we all have these energies within us, whether or not you're female or male. We all have masculine and feminine energies, yin and yang energies. And so you've had to learn how to kind of get back in touch with some of that divine feminine energy that you were maybe lacking before. And then we have the King of Pentacles. Okay, so this is all about like abundance, right? So this is all about about kind of being the master of the physical realm, right? So I feel like you had to learn, kind of had to learn how to get back in touch with your body a lot, because I feel like there's probably a lot of resistance to being in the physical realm. If you were operating from this King of Swords energy before, swords are all about air, all about thoughts, right? So you were very much kind of like this mentally cerebral kind of stoic person before, and now you seem like you have much more of an ability to connect with your body and connect with the earth, right? Because the pentacles are all about the earthly realm, and it's about the body. So there's a lot more ability that you have now to connect with your body, to kind of bring these more divine ideas from, you know, the cosmos and bring them down into the body, right? Because we have the King of Pentacles, and I always think of, you know, the king as being the more divine masculine, which is more relating to kind of the like the how do I say it? The higher realms of the universe. It's kind of like the yin, or the divine feminine, kind of comes from the earth, and then the divine masculine kind of comes from the universe, kind of that polarity. And I feel like this is kind of a good marriage of those polarities, because you have the king here, which again is the divine masculine figure, who's tapped into that kind of universal energy, but then you have the suit of Pentacles, which is very much tapped into the earthly energy. So you kind of have had to find this marriage between this masculine energy and this earthly energy, right? So this kind of marriage of the divine feminine and divine masculine, which you now have a better sense of. You now have a better sense of what it means to be in your body and to listen to your body and listen to the things that it has to tell you, right? And I feel like learning all of these things that you've learned is going to be your key to abundance in the future, right? Because this King of Pentacles also talks about abundance, financial abundance, and just abundance in your life in general. So you've kind of gotten the key to achieving that. Whether or not it's come to you yet, you have the key for it now, and that's this kind of marriage of opposites, of this divine masculine, divine feminine, the spiritual realm and the earthly realm, right? The mind and the body, this kind of marriage of opposites that you've had to really learn this year is going to be the key to everything you want to see happen in 2021 and, you know, the rest of your life. So let's look at your last card here. So this is the reddening stage. So this is all about that full embodied integrated state, right? What if you have not embodied this yet, what is the things that need to happen to really like bring this home and ground this into reality here? Okay, so we have the Six of Swords in reverse, and this is the Harpy. Cool, let's see. Okay. So yeah, kind of, again, like learning to be both grounded and expansive at the same time, with this harpy kind of sitting on this tree branch. So the tree is very grounded, its roots go deep into the earth, it's very stable, but this harpy has wings and it can, you know, fly and explore the skies, right? So it's kind of learning how to be both grounded and expansive at the same time. Okay, and we have this in reverse. So I feel like the key here is knowing when to rest and when to fly, right? I feel like there's still something that needs to kind of happen for you to really kind of understand this and really embody this, of knowing when do I, you know, practice stillness and stay kind of grounded and steady, and when do I allow myself to take off. So kind of having this understanding of divine timing, and like knowing when to spread your wings and when to rest and ground yourself here. And the Six of Swords also often talks about moving on from the past, right? And I do feel like you are really beginning to move on from a lot of this painful things that you've experienced. But you're doing so in a new way, right? You're not just trying to like leave it behind and never look at it again. You're looking for the ways in which what happened to you is actually adding to your life, right? So it's a more advanced understanding because you have this newfound respect for these darker parts of life, this newfound understanding of being able to use your pain to express from it, right? Looks like she's singing here. So using your voice, I feel like some of you have a story to tell that you have not really maybe fully told yet. And I think to really embody this energy moving forward into 2021, you're being asked to tell that story, you know, whether it's through some creation, through song for some of you, some kind of expression. Like there's something in the throat chakra that has not been expressed that needs to be expressed in order for all of this energy to really kind of come to a completion with this cycle. Okay, so there's something that has not yet been expressed that needs to be expressed here. So whatever that means to you, for a lot of you, I feel like it could be related to some kind of musical expression that you feel called to share. But yeah, there's some story that you need to tell still in order to like kind of just complete this cycle and really be able to embody this new self that you've built this year. Ooh. Let's get a couple of clarifiers. Okay, we have the Three of Swords. Okay. So yeah, you need to express this thing that broke your heart, you know? What was it that, you know, kind of shattered you this year? And how do you put that into song somehow, you know, whether that's an actual song or just like, you know, metaphorically, how do you make that into something, a story you can tell, you know? Like there's just something that needs to be said about this pain oh God, this pain that you experienced here. Okay, and then we have the Ace of Swords. Okay. Yes, so this is this new idea, right? This new idea that's going to come to you once you've fully spoken about this pain, right? And look how this shape kind of makes a heart here, and it's almost like the opposite picture of this here, because we have these 3 swords through this heart, and now we have this sword kind of forming a heart with these laurels on the side. So there's a new idea, a new thought coming to you that's really going to like propel you into 2021 with a great sense of purpose. But you kind of need to be able to tell this story, you know, transmute this heartbreak into this beautiful new idea, right? And that needs to come through this expression in the throat chakra. Okay, and we just had one other card that wanted to come out, and it was this 5 of Wands in reverse. Okay, so 5 of Wands is all about, you know, that kind of conflict that can happen between, you know, different people and circumstances. And we have this in reverse, so I feel like you're learning how to work with the conflict instead of against it. You're learning how to work with the turmoil instead of against it. You're learning how to kind of end the battle within yourself and be able to negotiate and like find the third option that works for everyone, you know, whether that's a conflict between you and someone else. You're learning how to have an open conversation so that you can find the thing that works for everyone, so that no one has to end up hurting, because I feel like you've kind of awakened to this idea that you can't hurt someone else without hurting yourself with this Witch in reverse card and this moon energy. It's like you've kind of realized you can't hurt someone else without hurting yourself, and so you have a greater understanding now of how to kind of resolve conflict, right? And so you just really kind of need to trust that. So whatever it is that you're kind of afraid to say, because maybe you're afraid that there is going to be some kind of conflict because of it, trust that you know enough now that you can handle this conflict and that it's not going to overwhelm you, because you are strong enough for it. So whatever it is you need to speak, to get off your chest, to just really bring this energy to a kind of a culmination, to a completion point of this cycle. You know, if you're afraid to say it because you're afraid of starting some conflict, you know, if there's just something you need to say to someone, or you know, put something out there, but you're afraid of some kind of conflict that might happen because of it, know that you don't have to worry about that, because you have the strength now to deal with this. It's like not even an issue anymore, right? But you just haven't really experienced this new changed version of yourself yet enough to be able to trust that you can actually deal with this conflict. But, you know, the message here is that you most certainly can, okay? So, I will pull one of these animal spirit cards for you to represent, you know, what is the animal that you have most, or it represents most, I guess, this embodied energy of this year, this fully embodied energy. Okay, ooh, and we had the peacock. Awesome. So the peacock is all about authenticity, right? All about showing your true colors, all about expressing yourself in your truest form, right? Really just being a beacon of your true essence. You know, who are you? You really had to like get to know yourself this year quite a bit. And now it's like it's time to express that again with this expression. Like there's something that needs to be expressed. So like, you know, don't just know what this lesson is or know what your purpose is. If that's for some of you, I feel like this year kind of clarified, you know, what you feel like your purpose is in this life. The message is, don't just like know what that is and have that in the back of your mind, but really live that. Let that shine through you, you know, wear it on your fucking sleeve, like wear it, like just embrace it, you know, flaunt it, really make it seen and just express as much as you can. And that is, you know, the energy that you're going to need to go into 2021 with is just this complete self-acceptance and approval and just complete like embrace of who you are, and this just beautiful flaunting of your truest self here, this peacock card. All right. Well, awesome, group one. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you gained some clarity from this. Again, be sure to check back next week. We will do a 2021 reading, so focusing on the energies that you need to kind of get prepared for. But I hope that this gave you some clarity. And again, if you're interested in a one-on-one reading with me, the information will be below. I do have readings that are structured this kind of same way, so you can look in the description for more information about that. But I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your year, that you're able to relax and kind of just process all the things that happened this year. And I hope that you have a wonderful new year as well. And I will see you again very soon. Namaste. Okay, welcome group two. Thank you so much for joining. Like I explained in the first group, this is going to be a spread that is kind of, it's basically the same spread that I did in my Shadow Alchemy video, if you watched that one. If not, I'll leave a link down below. But basically it's going to be, one main card to represent each of the 4 stages of alchemy. So real quickly, I'll just kind of go over those. We'll talk more a little bit as we go through them, but the first stage is the blackening stage. So this is the stage where you're kind of becoming aware of the shadow, aware of whatever is showing up that is a challenge or a problem or what is unwanted, right? So this is going to be, what your biggest challenge was or your biggest shadow was in 2020. The second stage is the whitening stage. So this is where we become aware of the purity or the innocence behind the shadow. So this is whatever childhood wound was most needing to be healed in 2020. So we're going to look at whatever that wound was there, that you hopefully were able to find some healing with this year. And then the third stage is the yellowing stage. So this is the stage of that exaltation of finding the gold within the shadow, finding something, the gift to extract, right, from the experience. So what was the thing that you were meant to take from this experience, right? The gold or the gift from this experience. So that will be the third card. And then the last card is the reddening stage. So this is all about that final substance that is created. So what does this new embodied integrated aspect look like? What does this new way of being look like for you? And what are some of the things that maybe you still need to do to fully embrace that before we enter, 2021? Okay, so without further ado, we will get into it. So your first card again for the blackening stage. So your biggest challenge this year, we have the Lovers in reverse. So here's the card. Okay. So the Lovers in reverse. So that for a lot of you, there could have been, there's the biggest challenge I feel like has to do with relationships this year. Whether or not it's a romantic relationship, you can decide for yourself if that is what is resonating or not. But if it's not romantic based, it could be any kind of relationship, right? We all have relationships. There's not a single person on the earth who does not have relationship with something or someone. So the challenge this year for you was having to do with relationships, right? This kind of conflict that arose in relationships for you, where you couldn't really see eye to eye anymore, right? It's like their heads are kind of locked together. So it's kind of like you're entangled in this relationship. So you kind of don't really know who you are without this person. So there could be some kind of patterns of codependency or codependency or enmeshment with some of the relationships in your life where you didn't really have a clear sense of self separate from the relationship. And that was kind of causing some problems because even though you're intertwined with this person, you can't really see eye to eye with them on something. Like there's some kind of conflict, but it's like you can't really express it because your identity is so entwined with their identity that any kind of conflict feels like a threat to the relationship. Any kind of conflict between yourself and them of just like what your different ideas, beliefs, preferences are, feels like a conflict, right? So there's some kind of energy of like, this like real kind of codependency or just difficulty having boundaries in relationships that was very challenging for you this year, I'm feeling. So we're going to draw a couple of clarifying cards for that. Okay, and we have the Two of Cups reversed, which is almost the same card. I mean, this is not the Lover's card, but this is the card that is closest to the Lover's card, I would say. And it's also reversed. So yeah, so there's an issue with knowing what the appropriate amount is to give and take in relationships, you know? You might have felt like there was kind of an imbalance between what you were giving versus what you were receiving. It didn't really feel like an even exchange, you know? You felt maybe like you were being taken advantage of, or like you weren't being received in the way that you wanted to be received, right? So there was this real conflict around receiving. Maybe you felt like you couldn't receive, you know, anything from them, or they weren't receiving anything that you were trying to put out. So there was some kind of discrepancy in what you were giving versus what you were receiving in your relationships with people. And this could be one person in specific, and, you know, you'll know if that's the case for you, or it could just be people in general. And we have what is this? The Eight of Wands, which also was in reverse here. So a halting of momentum happened here. There was some kind of momentum that, you know, was happening with this relationship where it seemed like you were going in one direction, and then suddenly it's like, oh, just kidding. Things were not going the way that we planned anymore. So some relationship, you know, it could be many relationships, but some relationship in your life this year, it's like whatever plans you had or ideas you had about the direction you were going with this relationship kind of got turned upside down and just completely halted, and you're like, I don't even know like what to do anymore, because it's like something that you thought was true was no longer the case. You know, maybe you thought that you had a really healthy relationship with someone, and then you found out that it wasn't all that healthy, and that there was all of these difficulties, and you discovered that you didn't really know who you are outside of this relationship, or you you know, didn't really have a clear sense of self outside of any relationship in general. Or maybe you found out that it was difficult for you to even connect with anyone, that you had a pattern of not really being able to truly connect with someone, and only kind of connecting in a way where you weren't really bringing your whole self to the table, you know? It's like you were just trying to kind of be whatever the other person wanted you to be, but you weren't really engaging in a true vulnerable connection there. So, you know, whatever message resonated with you there, that idea that you had of like yourself and your relationships in your life, it's like, oh, I thought I was doing so great, and now like everything is different, everything is turned upside down, all my momentum has completely halted, and like I don't even know what to do now. So there was kind of this upheaval having to do with your relationships with people, where you were like, you don't even know how to navigate them anymore. Or at least you didn't, right? That was the challenge. So let's look at the second stage. So what is the vulnerability lying under that issue? What was the childhood wound that was needing to be healed? And we have the Two of Coins. Okay, we have 2 roses here. Okay. Interesting, I don't know why, but this is making like the image of this looks like ovaries to me a little bit. So I don't know, but for some of you, this could be a message of if you are women or if you have female anatomy, there could be some issues that you might have had connecting with your menstrual cycle. Sorry, this might be a weird random message, but it's coming through for some reason. There might have been some kind of let's just say trauma related to this divine feminine or this like sacred sexuality that was present this year for some of you. Again, random message there, might not resonate with all of you, but for some of you, there was some kind of trauma that could have been related to not feeling like you were able to just have any kind of sexual desire or anything related to that kind of like sacral chakra energy of divine femininity, sexuality, creativity. A lot of blockages there that could have come from some kind of trauma in your childhood where that expressing those things was like not made to not be okay in some way. So if that resonates with some of you, then take that. But for others of you, Two of Coins, yes, so for some of you, again, I'm feeling I'm getting kind of some random messages here, but for some of you, there could have been a trauma associated with a sibling coming home, where maybe you, maybe if you're like an oldest child, there could have been, some pain associated with having a younger sibling suddenly like pop into the picture, and then suddenly like you had to learn how to share your resources with someone when you didn't before. And if the sibling message isn't resonating, see if there was something else that happened where you had to share resources with someone, is what I'm getting here. It's like there was two flowers growing from the same stem, so it was like some kind of limited resource that you had to share with someone else, with this energy here, which kind of then set you up for your relationships and the rest of your life to be about, needing to just be whatever the other person wants because there's not enough to go around, if that kind of makes sense. I'm going to draw some clarifiers here, getting some kind of random messages with this group. Okay. We have 3 clarifiers pop out. We have the Hierophant reversed. We have the 3 of Wands reversed, or 3 of Swords, reversed. And we have the 5 of Swords reversed. Everything reversed here. Okay, so there was some kind of a heartbreak that happened in your childhood, because of like something kind of being taken away, or like someone not having your best interest at heart and kind of betraying you in some way. Right, but I feel like because these are both in reverse, I feel like this was something that like it was not very obvious, like to an outsider's perspective, like it wouldn't have been obvious that was something that was like traumatizing to you, but it did have a very profound effect on you. And I feel like these are in reverse because I feel like you, for most of your life, have not been able to really see the effect that this has had on you and how this has kind of set up your mental blueprint for relationships, because it was kind of like this unseen wound here. But I do feel like there is something seemingly very like normal or subtle that happened, but that had a very profound effect on you and really kind of felt like a stab in the heart and felt like a stab in the back, even like a betrayal of sorts. That had to do with, I feel like something to do with like unexpectedly having to like share resources with someone, or like, not being able to be your own person. It's like you only knew who you were, like, in relation to someone else. And I feel like because this is the suit of coins, which again is like physical things, this had to do with there being some kind of lack of resources where you had to like heavily depend on someone else in order to get your needs met, which we all do as children, being pretty much powerless to meet our own needs as children. But there is something that you felt like you had to like attach yourself to someone and kind of be whatever they wanted you to be, in order to physically have your needs met by this person, because there was a lack of resources for you as a child. You didn't have very many people to go to, so you kind of had to learn to deal with whatever you got, and that kind of set up your foundation in relationships. We have the Hierophant reversed here, so there could have been something with religion. For some of you, if you were raised religious, there could have been some kind of religious messages or programming you got that like was ultimately not beneficial to you. I'm not saying this to like bash on religion in general. I think that's a whole other topic we could get into, but I definitely don't want to imply that any religion is like bad or evil. But there's shadows in everything, right? So there could have been a shadow for some of you tied to some kind of religious belief that led to some kind of toxic pattern, again, possibly relating to sexuality for some of you, some kind of toxic belief relating. Okay, I am so sorry, my phone. I have no storage, so we're just gonna have to do the best that we can. I have to keep deleting things, but it's fine. Anyway, what was I saying? There was some kind of toxic belief for some of you that could have come from religion, or just even if it's not religion, some kind of traditional way of thinking that was put on to you from your parents or from an older generation of like, this is just the way things are, that led to some kind of toxic pattern in relationships because, again, I feel like it's connected to this sacral chakra energy, possibly related to sexuality, of like what you are and aren't allowed to express, who you are and aren't allowed to be, that kind of set up this pattern in relationships where you felt like you're not really allowed to be your full self separate from someone else, and so you have to keep yourself tied to them because you learned that there's only so much to go around, and there's not if there's not enough resources to support the growth of two individuals, then you have to attach yourself to one person, because there's only going to be enough resources to support that one person, if that makes sense. So a lot of, trauma around like being able to have an individual sense of identity for you, I feel like. Oh yeah, I was going to use one of these. So I just want to look at maybe one or two of these, just to see if there's any other specific things that might come up for important messages about childhood things. Okay, we have secret place. Okay. Interesting. We have this keyhole with these constellations and like a little shed. So I feel like for some of you, it's like you felt like you could only be yourself if you were in the secret place that no one knew about. Like you can only be yourself if you're alone. Like there's this very secret place where you get to actually be yourself, whether that's like your room or some kind of place maybe you had that was like kind of this secret, sacred space for you, but it's like you felt very kind of trapped or confined, like you can only be yourself in secret, is what I'm getting with this card. Because you learned that, it's not safe, there's not enough to support you being your own person, so you have to, confine that and kind of hide that and wait until you're in this secret place where you can then express that, okay? Okay, we'll move on to what is so this is the third stage, which is the yellowing the yellowing stage. So what is the gold to extract from the situation? What is the gift, the lesson? What is the positive meaning that we can take from this? Okay, and we have the Page of Cups. Okay, so look at this. You have this beautiful new thing, right? This Page of Cups, this is about this like new birth, right? This new birth that or of an idea or of a creation, this new birth of self, I feel like, for you guys, since there was a lack of self. I feel like this energy of this is this lack of self in relationships. So this has led to this need for there to be a new birth of self, right? Which has had to happen, or in order for that to happen, you had to kind of have like a death of what you thought you were, which was only, confined to relationship. But now it's like you get to be more than that. You get to redefine yourself, right? Completely new identity. This new birth of self. Let's look at some clarifiers on that. Ooh, okay. Okay, we have the Six of Swords and there's also, the Six of Pentacles. Okay. So a lot of sixes here. Six can be about kind of moving on from the past, moving forward, finding harmony. And so we have the Six of Swords, which is very much about kind of moving on beyond the pain, right? Learning to, you kind of have to like take the painful experiences with you and find a place to lay them to rest, right? It's like you have to accept this pain as a part of you. And you have to just move on with that and learn how to embrace that in order to be able to, find that relief of being able to, be free. It's kind of like a paradox, but like in order to be free of the burden, you have to like let it crush you almost. You have to really feel the weight of it in order to just kind of let it like move through you, so that you can come out of the other side. And so that, I feel like, is what you guys have had to do this year as you're kind of moving on from whatever, painful thing happened with your relationships where, for some of you, it could have just really been a really bad breakup. For others, it could have just been all of your relationships in general just suddenly were not as stable as they once were because you realized that you had lost yourself in them, right? And so you've kind of had to, have a grieving process with that you're kind of being able to move on from now, where you're kind of seeing how maybe these things weren't actually there to hurt you, these experiences, but maybe they were actually there to teach you something. Okay, and with this Six of Coins, like you're kind of like the scales are like kind of rebalancing, and you have to reevaluate what is fair and what is not fair. Because remember, I was saying how you have a difficulty knowing what is the right amount to give and receive in relationships, right? And this is kind of like you becoming the master of that, becoming the master of understanding what an authentic giving and receiving kind of energy is, where it doesn't feel unfair anymore. It feels like it actually is in alignment with what you want, and it actually is a balanced interaction, right? So you're learning how to have balanced relationships, meaning that you are giving and receiving in ways that are in alignment with what you, both of you actually want, and you're meeting each other's needs in a way where it's mutual, and it's mutually beneficial for both. And that's kind of what you've had to learn this year, and I feel like that's kind of now what you are able to do, because you're able to see, okay, who needs what. It's like in relationships, you both have to learn to take the other person's best interest into your own. And so if I'm going to take your best interest as a part of mine, and you're going to take my best interest as a part of yours, if we're both doing that, then we can see, okay, whose best interest is of most urgent to meet right now, and we can put our energy into meeting that need. So it's about having both parties kind of be on board with understanding what the priority is in the relationship. Who do we need to focus on most right now, and how can we make sure that the other person is still getting what they need? So you've had to kind of learn how to master that, and I feel like the gift of this year is that you now have that knowledge, and so now you're able to kind of again, like, rebirth yourself, rebirth this new way of being, where you are no longer defined by another person, but you're actually in a relationship with them. Whereas before, you were just trying to like become them. There wasn't actually a separate you for them to have a relationship with, because you didn't have a sense of self that was separate from that person or those people. Okay? So finally, let's go into the last card, the last step for you guys. So this again is the reddening stage. So this is all about that full embodied integrated state. So maybe what are some of the things that you still need to do to fully kind of embrace this new way of being? Okay, and we have the Queen of Wands in reverse. Look at that. Beautiful, fiery lips here. Queen of Wands in reverse. For some of you, you might have a bit of a fiery tongue. Is that an expression? What's that expression? Like whatever whatever expression means, where like you say things a little bit sharply or harshly sometimes, or like like you've kind of you have some anger. I feel like that was also that you had to express this year, because you had kind of lost yourself in your relationships. It makes perfect sense why you would have this anger that you like really just needed to express and kind of just like get out there. So maybe you had an outburst or something that was maybe a little intense, but I feel like it was actually needed for you to experience having boundaries and being able to express yourself. And I feel like this being in reverse could either mean that it's time for you to learn how to be able to express yourself and express your anger even in a way where it's not so like damaging to the other person. So learning how to kind of master that internal flame so that you can express it before it gets to like a level 10 and you're just like exploding, if that resonates for some of you. So learning how to master that fire within you before it gets to that level by expressing things like the second they bother you and not waiting for it to build up. For a lot of you, I feel like that's very important. For some of you, it could just be like you still haven't even expressed anything. Like it's still within you. This anger, this fire, it's still within you, and you still need to open up and express it. So for some of you, that might be the message to take, is that if you need to express anger in some way, like let yourself do it. Okay, but I do feel like there is just kind of a caveat to put on that to make sure you're doing so in a safe way. And you don't, doesn't necessarily, like, in order to express anger, the person you're angry at doesn't necessarily have to be present. If you really just want to like express it and get it out of you, it doesn't have to like actually be directly at that person. Of course, every situation is different, so maybe that is what you need, but for some of you, you might just need to find a way to express it in a way where you're not like actively going against someone else, so that you can like get it out of you, but then you can actually like successfully like resolve the conflict with this person without like, you know, destroying the relationship by saying something that you might regret. So then to clarify, we have the Ace of Cups in reverse. So yeah, I feel like there's some emotions that still need to be expressed here. So I feel like and it's like, I feel like you're the type of person to kind of wait for the emotion to get so full that you have to express it again, and it kind of comes out very fiery and explosive because you wait for it to like completely fill up before you can express it. So the lesson here for you to really embody what you've learned this year before 2021 is to express your emotion when it's on like a level 2, okay? Like don't wait until it's level 100 and it's like just exploding, you know? And if you feel like you're at a level 100 now and you need to explode, then let yourself explode, but do so in a way where it's like a safe container for that. And then moving on from that, try to do so in when it's at a smaller level, okay? I feel like that's a pretty big message for a lot of you there. I'll just draw one more card for this. Okay. Temperance. So, yeah, it's like, you gotta learn how to express yourself in a way that's authentic, but before it gets to the point where it's too much to handle. Okay, temperance is all about doing things in increments, right? So that it doesn't become overwhelming. It's like you gotta dip your foot in the water, dip your toe in the water, get used to it, okay? Like, you know, take a little bit of medicine, mix it with a little bit of, what am I trying to say? A spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. Like, mix it with a little bit of, like, juice or whatever to make it tolerable. So I feel like this relates to how you deal with your emotions, right? If you still feel like your emotions are too overwhelming for you to feel all at once, then don't make it happen all at once, but like, you know, do a daily practice of every day. Like, this is something I do in the morning is, like, if you wake up and you have a meditation practice, or if not, and you can still, you know, start this, where you just like, you know, you wake up, you get out of bed, and you do a little bit of a meditation where you're just present with the sensations in your body, and specifically just kind of adding awareness to any emotional sensations that might be in your body without judging them, and just kind of letting them like take over your body just for like 5 minutes, just letting yourself feel whatever emotion is present within you, just like 5 minutes a day, just fully surrendering to that emotion, can be really powerful, because again, it's like, it's a little bit at a time because you're only doing it for 5 minutes. So it's like you're dipping your toe in the water. If you're someone who's like a little bit afraid of your own emotions, which I can relate to, and a lot of us are because of the way that we were raised. And if you're someone who feels like you couldn't have a sense of self, then that's probably the case, is because a lot of your sense of self comes from your emotions. So, you know, make it a little bit easy on yourself, right? Like, express what you can every day, feel what you can every day, you know, temper it down so that it's tolerable, right? So that you can gain some resilience, so that eventually it's not so overwhelming and you can express your truth and it doesn't have to be so explosive all the time, okay? So I hope that message resonates with you. Just to close this reading off, I will draw an animal spirit card to represent whatever animal spirit most represents what you were trying to embody as we move into 2021. Okay, so what is the animal spirit that you came here to master this year, this animal energy? Okay. Okay, oh, okay, we have the dragonfly. Cool. So dragonfly, this is very throat chakra energy. I'm a little bit unfamiliar with the message of this one, so I will look at my book real fast. Oops. Dragonfly, master of light, illusion, and the mind. Dragonfly is an ancient and ethereal creature that awakens a sense of wonder and awe. The dragonfly is a symbol of the mind. It is always moving, shifting, shimmering, and changing. When the dragonfly card appears, it's worth considering the quality of your mind and perception. Are they restless or still, dreamlike or crystal clear? The situation at hand may be different than it appears at first glance. The dragonfly reminds us to calm the mind so the light of wisdom can shine through. When in balance, sees clearly, joyful, magical. When out of balance, can't concentrate, busy mind. To bring into balance, focus on the breath. Cool, cool. So dragonfly, a lot of air energy, breath energy, right? So I feel like the energy that you've mastered is being able to find freedom in your mind instead of feeling trapped by your mind. Being able to kind of find a sense of freedom, freedom to think for yourself, freedom to, speak in alignment with your truth, and, really just kind of embody this, this free, free thought and free expression, right? Very kind of throat and like third eye energy, but because you're learning how to define yourself separate from those around you, and that means being able to express your own thoughts, express your own opinions, and be able to see clearly for yourself and not feel like your judgment is completely determined by other people. Okay, so very beautiful energy here. Okay, so I hope that this reading resonated with you. Thank you so much for joining me. Again, please tune in next week. We'll be doing a reading for 2021, so everything you need to know going into those energies. But if you liked this and if you're interested in booking a personal reading with me, the information for that will be down below. I have spreads very similar to this, so you can check that out. And otherwise, I will see you very soon, and hope you have a wonderful rest of your year. Take care of yourself, and I will see you again very soon. Namaste. Okay, hello group 3. So, last but not least, we have our final group. So, just like the other groups, I'm just gonna briefly explain what we're doing here. So, basically, the spread that we are doing is the same spread that I did in my Shadow Alchemy video, if you watched that one. If not, I'll leave a link down below. But basically, we have 4 main cards here, which are going to represent each of the 4 stages of alchemy. So I'll give a brief explanation of what those are right now, and then we'll explain a bit more as we go into it. But the first stage is the blackening stage. So this is the stage where you are becoming aware of the shadow of the things that are not what you want, right? The things that are challenging or that are presenting a problem for you. So this is going to represent whatever was causing you the most frustration in 2020 and what was your biggest challenge this year. Okay, and then the second stage is the whitening stage. So this is where we become aware of whatever innocence or purity is behind the shadow. So this is where we become aware of whatever childhood wound was most trying to be healed this year, right? Because all of our all of the things that happen to us that are, you know, negative or positive really, but most of the negative things that happen to us in our adult life are happening because there's some inner child that is trying to get some kind of resolution from some kind of trauma that happened in childhood. So we play out these patterns subconsciously looking for this resolution. And so that's what we're going to be looking at in the second stage. And then in the third stage, this is the yellowing stage. So this is where we are looking for the gold that is inherent within the shadow. So we're looking for the gift to extract from the experience. So what was the lesson and the gift to extract from this year that was 2020 and from all of these painful things that we might have gone through. And then the last stage, the fourth stage, is the reddening stage. And this is where the substance becomes an entirely new substance altogether, right? So this is really all about that embodiment of that fully integrated new way of being. So this is going to be all about, you know, what are the final steps you need to take to really fully embody these lessons of 2020 before moving in to 2021, okay? So without further ado, we will get started. So the first stage, again, is the blackening stage. So this is your biggest challenge of this year, okay? And we have the King of Discs in reverse. Okay, so with this card, it's, oh, this is the Knight of Discs, sorry, not King of Discs. Knight of Discs in reverse. So this card always makes me think of having the world on your shoulders, right? So for a lot of you, it seems like there was some kind of crushing thing that it felt like you were kind of left to deal with, and you didn't really have the support to deal with it. And for some of you, it seems like maybe you tried to be able to hold it up by yourself, but because it's in reverse, I feel like you ultimately failed to be able to hold this weight of this thing by yourself. So, you know, whatever this was, I feel like it's something kind of in your physical world, some kind of structure that you were kind of like holding up, whether it was a job or a business, or something, maybe you had some kind of financial crisis happen. I know a lot of people did this year, where it was like you're suddenly like being crushed by this like weight of this responsibility, I feel like. So there was some kind of, yeah, like major responsibility that was all on you, and you were like trying to take care of it, and you're like, I got it, I could do it. And then it was like, no, I can't do it. Like, I'm really just fully like crushed by this responsibility. I tried to take care of it all. I tried to hold it up, and I just couldn't. Okay, so I feel like there's definitely this feeling of like overwhelm, and it's like I tried everything I can to be able to hold this thing and take this responsibility, but I just couldn't do it. Okay, so we're gonna get some clarifiers. We have the Queen of Cups in reverse. Okay. We'll get one more clarifier. But yeah, for a lot of you, it was not safe. You did not feel safe to express your emotion. No. You did not feel safe to express your emotion. You did not even really feel like you knew what to do with it. We also have strength here. So yeah, your strength was tested quite a bit this year. You know, it's like, I feel like for a lot of you, you had to redefine what strength was, because you thought strength was just, you know, taking all of the burden, all of the responsibility on yourself and just bearing it. You know, you had this idea of strength just being the ability to bear what is unbearable, the ability to be able to just hold everything up with your own weight, right? But I feel like this year came around and was like, no. Strength is in your ability to be emotionally vulnerable with people. And that really shifted everything you knew, right? Because strength, this card is about having kind of a gentle strength. This is a very feminine energy. She's not forcing this this lion into submission, but she's gentle with it, right? So I feel like a lot of you had to learn how to tame this like this inner beast within you. That's, at least that's what it seemed like, where you thought, you know, in order to master this this struggle within you, master this kind of wild, unruly energy within you, that is associated with you know, whatever emotions that you felt like you weren't able to express. I feel like a lot of you were just like, oh, I just got to keep that I just got to keep that bottled inside and just keep, you know, keep bearing this burden and keeping up with this responsibility, right? Because that's the only way to tame the beast, is to just you know, silence it with this very like you know, physically strong and like just this kind of endurism of like, I just got to do it, I just got to take it, like there's no other choice, right? But I feel like you have learned that that was not actually the energy that was needed to, you know, tame any of this inner turmoil that you may have felt, this inner beast that you may have been dealing with. If that resonates with you, when I say that, I just mean whatever energy within you felt like too overwhelming to deal with. Right? And so you you learned that you were not very well acquainted with this Queen of Cups energy. You were not very well acquainted with this, you know, being this kind of master or of emotions and relationships, in a way where it's very gentle and soft and nurturing. It's like you never learned that. Like, I have to be gentle and nurturing. Like, I thought I just had to hold up everything and not say a word, you know? And so there's a lot of shifting of perspective that had to happen here for a lot of you. Yeah, so I feel like there could have been, you know, some kind of structure in your physical life. Like I said, it could have been a job, could have been school. You know, there are so many things that just kind of were shaken up, you know, by the system this year. But there was something, you know, specifically in your physical life that kind of brought down this like avalanche of all of these things. And now it's like, oh, so all of a sudden you're like holding all of this on your back and you're like, I don't know how I got here, you know, and you have all of this emotion trapped inside, but you don't know how to express it, right? But that's really the energy that you need in order to embody this strength, is this emotional kind of softness and emotional intelligence, I want to say, or just like ability to just like be present and like with your emotions and like know how to like have strength through vulnerability versus through hardness, if that's resonating for some of you. Okay. Yeah, and I feel like for a lot of you, this caused some issues with relationships as well, or you were made aware of how your relationships were not really in alignment because you were not being vulnerable, and because you had this energy of like, I just have to hold the whole world up by myself, you know, like, ooh, my shoulders are hurting right now. I don't know if that's because of this energy or just because of like in general, but like, that's just, you know, what I'm feeling is like, yeah, it's like you were really just trying to bear it all. It's almost like you believed that no one would want to be present for your emotions. Like, no one would want to be present for your pain, and no one would want to receive you. I feel like that's kind of the idea that you had, like, no one's going to want to receive me. No one's going to want to take any of this burden off my back. So I just have to keep carrying it. Right. But that's kind of the lesson that you had to unlearn almost, is like this idea that no one's going to want to carry it for you, you know, because in order to have a relationship, you have to be willing to let someone else take some of that weight. And I think that's what you've been learning this year. And that's really scary for you, because that means like being vulnerable. If I let someone else take this weight, how do I know they're not going to drop it? You know, so there's a lot of fear associated with that vulnerability, of letting someone else have some of the responsibility that you have taken on. Okay. So let's look at the second stage. So this is the whitening stage. So this is whatever childhood wound is kind of underlying all of this pain that you went through this year. Okay, and we have the moon. Beautiful card here. Okay, we have a dolphin and a shark, it looks like, if those animals have any significance to you. So, yeah. So this is all about the shadow, right? This is all about, yeah, this is all about being able to be comfortable with yourself, you know? I feel like the underlying wound here was a rejection of yourself, a rejection of or I feel like there's something with like illusion. So like there could have been some kind of wound where it's almost like someone blamed you for something, or like made you think that you were bad in some way, or like made you afraid of some aspect of yourself, is what I'm getting here. Because this moon, we have this, this shadowy figure showing up on the moon, but it's just a reflection of this guy down here, but it almost looks like he's afraid of it, right? So I feel like the wound here is this fear that you were being made in your childhood, of like some perspective of that was given to you, this illusion that something about yourself is to be feared. And so you had to learn to like not look at that, right? And I feel like this has to do with emotion again, because of the water here, and because of the moon relates to emotions. And we have the Queen of Cups, who's all about emotions, right? So something about like just your emotion was made to be like totally wrong or scary to you as a child. And so you felt overwhelmed and you felt really frightened because no one explained to you like, hey, that's okay. Like, you know, it's just a shadow. Like no one told you that the boogeyman in your closet was just a shadow, you know, like no one told you that it's just you don't have to be afraid, it's just you. But you learned that you do have to be afraid, and you have to be the most afraid of yourself. And so we have the Four of Swords in reverse. Okay. Yeah. So a feeling of like, I feel like was some thought patterns that were created where it felt very much like this kind of impending doom. Like if you are to like, if you are to become aware of the reality that is like behind this shield, if you're to take your armor off, you're just going to be stabbed, right? Because there was a lot of fearful thoughts that kind of kept you in this space of being very afraid. And so you were convinced that, you know, if I take my armor off, I'm going to be stabbed in the face, you know, because your thoughts got to be so sharp and so intense because of this fear that no one ever taught you how to deal with. No one ever taught you how to deal with like this very intense emotional, like no one ever taught you how to like what is it? Weather the tides? Is that the expression? No one ever taught you how to, like deal with the tides of your emotions, like the ebb and the flow. It was just like, you just have to keep it calm. But there was like so much fear because you're like, I don't even know how to do that. Okay. Yeah. Look at this, Two of Swords. It's like you learned that it's safest to keep myself blindfolded, right? It's safest to be in denial. It's safest to just not even look at that which scares me. Okay, so a lot of you had a really big, I feel like, kind of what I call shadow awakening this year, where you have to become aware of everything that you had kind of blindfolded yourself to in the past, because you were convinced that it was going to hurt you. But the thing is, this was in reverse, so I feel like all of it was just this illusion created by your mind. This fear was just this thing created by your mind because you were taught to be afraid of yourself, when in actuality, there is nothing there to be afraid of. Okay, we have the same card that came out for the other group, which is Secret Place. Okay. Secret Place. So, yeah, for some of you, you feel like there's some secret, maybe some of you have like some kind of secret, there was something about yourself that felt like you had to keep secret, or like there's this almost like this secret place inside yourself that no one else could understand, kind of like this inner void, I feel like. It could be for some of you like what it felt like, this kind of like inner void where it felt like you were all alone and there was no one there to help you, and so you kind of have to keep this secret to yourself, like no one's going to understand, because it's like you're convinced that this shadow that you're looking at is like the worst possible thing and that it's going to destroy you, and so you're convinced that you have to like keep it secret, and you just have to keep it secret to yourself. Okay, you also have funeral. Okay, so a lot of you may have felt like this year almost like kind of was like a funeral for some kind of life that you felt like you lost, or like there was some kind of fantasy of your life that that you realized was not true. Okay, and so as a child, there could have been some kind of something that you felt like you had to lose, and I feel like it was some kind of like you had this fantasy life that you like wanted to live, or you wanted to have, but it was like you feel like you lost that in some way, or it was almost like this blindfold that you kind of put on to protect yourself. Like, don't look at the bad things that scare me, even though they're just things that are within myself, but I'm gonna pretend like, or because I believe that they are like actually going to hurt me in some way, if I've really let myself feel emotion, that it's going to like completely destroy me in some way. Because of this, you had to kind of learn to live in this state of denial, where you had to live in this fantasy world almost, where it was like, again, with the secret place, this could also be like living in your own fantasy world. Like you had your own world to yourself that you kind of created, where it was like everything is, everything is perfect. Everything is exactly how I want it to be. This is just my perfect fantasy world that I live in. And I feel like you had to realize that, that was a lie. And I feel like you had to kind of mourn that fantasy this year, because that's what this childhood aspect of you needed, was to just to see that what the image that it wanted to have of life was not actually what happened, but that the truth of what did happen, or what your life actually looked like, or who you actually are, isn't something to be afraid of. Okay, but you had to still mourn the fantasy of what you thought it was going to be, in order to kind of reach the acceptance of what it actually was. So I hope I'm making sense. This group has a lot of like kind of more heavy energy here, so I'm really just trying to like, the messages are kind of just spilling out of me. So if it's a little jumbled for you, take your time take the time that you need to like kind of digest it, or replay this if you need to, but I'm just kind of letting it spill out of me. So I hope that this is resonating for some of you. But yeah, I feel like a lot of you really had to mourn the image of the life that you wanted in order to like accept the reality of what your life actually was. But it's like once you did that, you realize that you really didn't have as much to be afraid of as you were convinced of, right? Because everything that you thought was going to like come down and stab you, like it was all just these thoughts created from your mind. Like you realize that you were the one creating it, and that you were only afraid of yourself, essentially. And there is a freedom in realizing that, right? There's a freedom in realizing that that you don't have to be so afraid anymore, because all it is just this projection of this need that wasn't met, of just being able to feel your emotions and being able to like navigate the ocean of experience. Because I feel like you're someone who tends to be very overwhelmed by things. You might be a very sensitive person, and so you might have felt kind of like you were lost in the ocean for a lot of your life, and like you couldn't really navigate the waters because no one really taught you how. And so I feel like this year you've kind of had to relearn that, right? Instead of putting on the blindfold and pretending like you're not in the middle of the fucking ocean and that you're not fighting to stay afloat, you realized that that was actually where you are. And so you have to learn how to swim again. You have to learn how to navigate these emotions. And like once you do, you realize that it's not as overwhelming as you once thought it was, because this big boogeyman that you're scared of is just your own shadow, and it's actually not out to get you. It just wants to be seen, right? So I hope that that's resonating for some of you. Very kind of heavy message with this one, so I hope that, again, just take this as you need it. I'm just trying to get this out, so if it feels like rushed, I'm just letting it flow through me. It's not my intention, but just want to put that out there, because I would, if this was a one-on-one reading, I would take some more time to like process through all of these things instead of just like dumping it all. But just take the time to process this as you need, okay? Just want to say that for this group, because this is a lot of heavy energy here. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the third stage. So this is the yellowing stage. So this is, finding the gold or the gift in this experience. So what is the lesson that you were supposed to learn? What is the positive meaning that you can now add to this experience, having gone through it? Okay. So you have the 10 of Discs in reverse. Okay. So I feel like you understand now that success, the success that you want to have in creating the life that you want to live and creating your own reality, right? That the power to do so has to come from the reality of where you are, okay? So you can't genuinely create the life you want to live if you are in denial to where you are. I feel like that's kind of the lesson here, because this is in reverse. It's like you now see that this perfect picture of the things you want is not going to come if you just like pretend like everything else isn't happening. It's like you have to kind of get in reality about it. Like, where are you genuinely right now, like in terms of your mental state, And maybe you're not in reality right now. Maybe your mental state is very much influenced by thoughts that may or may not be true. However, you still have to accept that that's where you are. So it's like the reality of where you are might be, I'm like in an ocean, I can't keep myself afloat. And, maybe that's the reality of where you are with your current perspective. But maybe down the line, you will see that you actually weren't so lost, and that you actually had this inner stability all along, and that a lot of the things that you were afraid of actually didn't have any any meaning, or like they weren't actually things that you needed to be afraid of, right? But that perspective that you might have down the line doesn't change the fact that where you are in the moment when you're experiencing this is, I'm experiencing this scary thing, and that's the reality, is there's this terrifying thing right here. And I don't know yet that it's not something that I don't have to be afraid of. Where I am right now, I do feel afraid of it. And so you've learned that you have to accept the reality of where you are in order to be able to move on from that. Like you can't get yourself to see the truth until you see the illusion. If that makes sense. You can't get yourself to see that something isn't the full reality until you fully accept where you are in that reality, if that makes sense. It's like your perspective, if you're trapped in a perspective where all you can see is something in front of you, okay? So like, like let's just say I'll have like tunnel vision and all I can see is this thing, and it's like this wall, right? And I'm just staring at this wall, and I think that this is all that there is. It's just this like stone wall staring in front of me, and there's like, I can't see beyond it, right? You will never be able to see what is beyond that wall if you're not even willing to look at that wall. Like if you're trying to get to the point where you can see beyond that wall into the possibilities that exist beyond it, you can't do so if you refuse to even look at the wall, if you refuse to even accept that right now I'm standing in front of a wall and I can't see beyond it, So it's like you have to learn to accept the painful reality of where you are, even if it's not the full reality of what could be. But it's like you can't get to that future creation reality that you want to have until you are like, oh, there's a wall in front of me. It's like if I'm blindfolded and there's a wall here, I'm not going to be able to see what's beyond that wall until I look at the wall. Okay, I hope that example kind of made sense. But I feel like that's kind of the lesson that a lot of you guys had to learn this year, is learning about like the different layers of reality, almost, of like the fact that your mind is the gatekeeper of reality, and whatever reality your mind is currently creating is the reality that you're in, and you have to be able to accept that if you ever have a hope of changing it. Okay, look at this. We have the Nine of Swords in reverse. So yeah, it's like you're breaking the chains of your own mind, setting yourself free from the chains that your mind puts on you, because your mind creates these chains to your reality to where you can only see what your thoughts are creating, and you can't see beyond that. And it's like you've learned that the key to breaking through these chains of the mind is by accepting where you are first. It's like you have to accept the fact that you're chained by these thoughts. You have to fully just like surrender to this like feeling of being chained up. And it's like only then can you even be able to conceptualize of the possibilities that might exist beyond that, right? So it's like you really found the key to breaking out of these mental chains, mental prisons, by learning how to surrender and, accept where you are mentally in order to ever hope of being able to see beyond that, Okay, then we have the Empress. Okay. So, yes, the Empress is all about the divine feminine, right? All three groups, I think, today have had something to do with connecting with divine feminine. So I guess that's a collective theme for 2020, as we're kind of moving into this new age of embracing the divine feminine aspects for all genders. But this is all about also connecting with Mother Earth, connecting with the mother archetype within you. You've had to learn how to remother yourself in a way that actually is beneficial for you, you know, how to be gentle with yourself, how to find gratitude and abundance wherever you are. It's like it's like you've learned that in order to break out of this mental hell, you have to make it heaven. You have to find the things around you that you genuinely enjoy. You have to find appreciation for wherever you are, even if it is hell, even if it is awful. It's like if you can find genuine things to appreciate and to enjoy about where you are, if you can release resistance to it to that degree, then it's no longer hell, then it's no longer awful, and now you are the empress and you are like, you know, the divine master of your reality, but you have this very gentle and soft energy, and you're not trying to control your reality, but you're just flowing with it, you know. It's learning how to flow with flow with your reality, and flow with your emotions, flow with the ebb and flow of the cycles. I feel like you have gotten in touch too with like the natural cycles of things, maybe the natural cycles of the year, or the moon cycles, or your menstrual cycle if you're a woman, or it's like you're more in tune with the cycles of nature, and you know that there's an ebb and flow, and that there's going to be pain, and that there's going to be relief, and it's going to be this kind of ebb and flow, but you've had some kind of peace with that now, because you've seen how all of these things, you know, have led to this acceptance of, you know, it's not always going to be easy, and sometimes I am still going to feel like I have the weight of the world on my shoulders, but I know that time will come and someone will come around and offer me some love, offer me some relief, and I'll be able to take it, because I've learned that strength comes from vulnerability instead of through hardness. So I really feel like you've learned how to be just a lot more soft with yourself, which is just very beautiful. Okay. So we're going to move into the last card now for this group. So this is the reddening stage. So this is the fully embodied, integrated aspect of you. What are the things that maybe you still need to do to fully kind of embrace this lesson? And look, we have the Empress again. Beautiful. Okay. So yeah, again, same thing that I was just saying, like really fully embody that Empress energy. Okay. Really get in touch with that divine feminine energy. I mean, this is a message for all three groups. I think it's a message for the collective, you know, get in touch with that embodiment too. It's like learning how to be at peace with your thoughts and in your body, you know. It's not one or the other. It's not your thoughts versus your body. You don't have to think less to feel more. You don't have to feel less to think more. You can do both at the same time, you know. How do you fully feel and fully think and fully experience? You know, it's like being able to be everything, and kind of being able to release resistance to all of that. Yeah, Knight of Swords. So yeah, you still are the master of your thoughts as well. You still know all of the secrets of the mind, but you're able to use that knowledge in a way that's very grounded. You know, you're able to use that knowledge in a way where you can still create the life you want to live on a very physical level. Okay, so for a lot of you, there may be a need to connect with the earth still. Look at this, oh my god, I'm gonna cry. This is so beautiful. You have the Knight of Cups and the Knight of Swords and the Empress. This is so beautiful. Look at this. Mind and emotion. Okay. I'm sorry. This is so cool. So yeah, you've learned how to master both your mind and your emotions, and that both have to go together. It's not one against the other, and that you have to be willing to be vulnerable. You know, you gotta take, oh, look at this. You gotta, where was that? Okay, look, how I said, like, you gotta protect, you know, you're keeping your helmet on. It's like you've learned, okay, there's sometimes I gotta take my helmet off and, like, appreciate the view around me and, like, see where I am. Let myself be a little bit vulnerable, you know? It's like you can still have some armor on and until you build enough trust to be able to fully be vulnerable. You know, it's like take it in increments, but you know now that you have a lot to give to the world and that you have a lot to receive from an emotional level, as long as you are trusting that emotional intuition, right? And you have a lot of knowledge that you've gained from the mental realm as well that you also are able to give the world, right? You know the secrets of the mind now, and you know how to master the heart as well, and you know how to do so in a very loving way that's going to just be super like powerful energy where you're just very embodied, right? So a lot of you, like I said, might need to do some connecting with the earth, connecting with like more divine feminine goddess energy. For some of you, you might want to, you know, do some kind of embodiment things like dance or sing or create from, you know, using your surroundings, like do some kind of very physical activity that makes you feel in touch with your true soul, like desires, you know, like what makes you feel the most like you, like you're the most in your essence. Those are the things that you're really going to want to do and focus on. And how do you use the knowledge that you've gained from your mind and the emotions that you have learned how to feel and how to accept, and how do you take both of these things and use them to give the world something? I feel like you have a lot to give from this knowledge of both your mind and your emotions, and now it's like you're off to go give the world this gift, right? So this is like such a beautiful energy. I love this group. Okay, I'm gonna draw one. Make sure I don't draw the same card as the other group. I'm going to draw one animal spirit card for you. Oh, okay. It just came right out. We have the eagle. Okay, so this is representing the culmination of this year for you. You know, what is the thing that you came here to master this year? And you have the eagle, which is so freaking beautiful. Okay, the eagle is so powerful. The eagle is being able to see things from a higher perspective. It's like you know how to zoom out now and get that higher perspective so that, you know, you don't feel so trapped by your mind anymore because you've learned how to master it and you have this beautiful higher perspective here with this eagle. I just want to see if there's anything it says in this book that I might miss with this card, just because I want to make sure I don't leave anything out. Eagle. Eagle, all-pervading power, truth seeker, transforms karma. The noble eagle emanates the light of the sun. This great bird is both physically and spiritually strong, represents mastery over the elements of fire and air. Yes. When the eagle appears, you'll soon be thrown into the karmic fire. For the sake of your transformation, the eagle pushes us to be our best and brightest selves and stops at nothing to see us shine. Grasp the sun in your talons and hold on for the ride. You are stronger than you think, eagle child. Oh, when in balance, bright, radiant challenges. When out of balance, controlling. To bring into balance, step into the unknown. Okay, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful energy. So yeah, and look, we had, you know, what you were so afraid of being the moon, which is just a reflection of who you really are, which is the sun, because you're so bright, you're just shining everywhere and on everything. It's like you're so bright, you might even hurt to look at for some people, right? But it's like you also know how to be the moon, and you also know how to reflect that light in a way where it's able to be received by people, and you can also, you know, so it's like you have both the emotional, intuitive aspect of the moon and the kind of objective truth of the sun. So you are very, very powerful, and you have so much truth and knowledge to be able to share with the world. And I think your mission for 2021 is to do that in some way. You know, let that light shine. Let that truth be known. Okay? Thank you so much for joining me this group. I really resonate with this group a lot, so I hope that whoever chose this group resonates with it also, and that you find the messages that you need. Please check next week. I will be posting pick a card for 2021, so all the things you need to know about the energies and all of that. So we'll be diving into that. So make sure to like and subscribe to get notified for that. I always forget to tell people to subscribe. And if you are interested in a personal reading with me, the information for that will be below. But I hope you have a wonderful rest of the year. Stay safe, stay healthy, take care of yourself, and I will see you again very soon. Thank you, and namaste.